Let's further this discussion with Kari Fulton. She's an environmental justice consultant and advocate. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So what are the major causes of groundwater pollution in China, and how big of a problem is it?
Well, I think some of the things, as they mentioned on the video, are mercury. You have all these different industries, all the things, all the products that we use, whether we're talking about our iPhone to our laptop, even to now with new policies, even some of the food that we are going to be eating, they come from China. And when we're thinking about all of that industry, all of those chemicals, all of those toxins, they have to go somewhere. And a lot of times they're in the groundwater. So that's a major issue when you're thinking about a whole country that is being, in many ways, seen as the industrial zone of the world.
Does it affect more than just agriculture?
Yeah, definitely. It affects people every single day. When we think about places like Flint, Michigan, in the United States of America, and we think, okay, this is an issue in Flint here in Michigan, but what would that look like if you magnified that in somewhere like the outskirts of China, where you have the same industry happening in that area, where you have even more industry? So it impacts your health, it impacts your skin, it impacts your life rate, how long you'll be able to live a healthy and viable life.
We saw in the story that in some areas, people actually drink this groundwater. How much of this is actually used among the Chinese population? How widespread is it?
I could imagine that it's very widespread, especially in rural areas where you don't necessarily have proper water filtration devices or proper water filtration piping. Now, they did mention that in larger cities like Beijing, the water is a little bit better. You know, so you have more modernized infrastructure, you have a more affluent, probably population, so they're cleaning up the water a little bit better. But when you come out to the outskirts, whether you're in China or whether you're in America, you're going to have less water quality. You're going to have different water quality issues because the infrastructure might be a little bit different. So I think you're talking about the people who are impacted. It could be on the millions of people.
Once the groundwater is polluted, how difficult is it to clean up? Can it be cleaned up?
That's a great question. That's a very great question. And I think it's going to be, it's going to be a major, major task, because not only that, you have to modernize your water supply system, you have to figure out a way to pull those toxins out. And you really have to start from the source like they're doing and stop using these really toxic chemicals that are creating the problem in the first place. Now, how are we going to get there when we're also talking about the increased demand for all of these different products all across the world? Everybody wants to have the newest Galaxy Samsung 8. Everybody wants to have the newest of all the technology. And so those chemicals, those different metals, they're in high demand, and they're going to leak into groundwater systems if you don't modernize your systems.
You said a very massive process, but probably also very slow.
Yeah. Definitely slow. I think it's definitely going to take decades to get to where they need to be. And that's talking about a country that's also very aggressive about changing for the better. I see China as a country that's looking and saying, hey, we need to be the leaders now. We can be the leaders on building an environmental and a clean energy economy for the globe. So they're pushing it in a way that some other countries might be moving a little bit slower on, but it's still going to take decades to really change over. And it's going to take a global effort to think about how we utilize the metals and the toxins that we see around us.
Kari Fulton, we appreciate your insight. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.